G'day, and welcome back to the Engine Room, our Boots Off Log On bi-weekly mini-series. In this episode, Nat and I talk through the end of the financial year and how to make the time a little less stressful in the farm office. June 30 is mainly about tax, reporting, and getting your records ready for the accountant. This is not financial advice, but we do cover some practical best practice to help you get organised. We talk through reconciliations, outstanding transactions, payroll and superannuation checks, reports for your accountant, and shortcuts that can come back to bite you later. Enjoy. Now over to the episode. Just a quick reminder, the information we share in this podcast is general in nature and isn't financial, investment, legal, tax, or accounting advice. Make sure you speak to a qualified professional who understands your unique situation before making any decisions. The views we and our guests express are our own and don't necessarily reflect those of our sponsors or anyone else. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Engine Room, our bi-weekly Boots Off Log On mini-series designed to help you get on top of the practical office side of your farm business. I'm David, Joint CEO of AgriMaster, and as always, I'm joined by Nat, Office Guru, and the other half of the Joint CEO team.
Hi, everyone.
Now, there's always a bit of stress this time of the year in the engine room at the end of the financial year. So in this episode, Nat and I will help you navigate the process and hopefully make it a little less stressful. So let's put the financial year into a bit of context to start with, though, because I think a lot of people just get a little head up about it. So in simple terms, the end of the financial year is a cut-off point for the year's reporting. So this is government reporting. It's when you close off the numbers for the period, prepare your financial reports, and work out the tax obligations that apply for that year. Now, for most businesses, although this is a government and mandated reporting period, a lot of people use this time to stop and review how the year's gone, to do tax planning, which is obviously important, and to reset for the year ahead. But for many farm businesses, this date does not align with the natural rhythm of your business. So if you plan around the season rather than the tax year, for example, like from February 1 to January 31 for a grain farmer, for example, the end of the financial year is more often just about tax planning and reporting on the case of with your accountant and the government, but not about farm business, financial planning and strategy. So the bigger business decisions are usually made at a more seasonally relevant time of the year. So that's just really important to keep the end of the financial year in context. It is important, but it's got more to do with tax and reporting than it has to do with farm business. So Nat, what's the first thing people should do to get ahead of the end of the financial year, this time of the year?
Okay, so I'll probably go through a few things. I always think about that, you start with a date. So generally speaking, all of your accountants will have you set aside when they're going to start working on your tax work for the financial year. So in this instance, we're talking about 25-26. So if you don't know when your accountant would like to start working on your tax work for 25-26 from July onwards, then find that out. So for example, they may say in the second week of August, we want to have all your tax work to us because we're going to start working on your tax returns. So that's a really good thing to actually know. And you should know that every year because then that's sort of a date to work to. Then you've got to just start now preparing and getting ready for June 30. So I just don't think June 30 has to be stressful because there's so many things that you can do now to relieve the stress. So, for example, if you've got any transactions that are sitting in your accounting package that are pre-tax year 25-26, clean them up now. So, but before you clean them up, what you need to do is work out, are they duplicates? And then you should speak to your accountant about what you need to do. Because really, unless your accountant says there's a reason for having outstanding debtors and creditors in your financial package that are older than this financial year, then they really do need to be tidied up. So once you've spoken to your accountant about what to do, if you are not sure how to deal with it, whatever financial package you're using, look on their help content and find out what to do. If you're an AgriMaster customer and you want to know best practice how to deal with it, give us a call and we can certainly help you walk through that bit. So that's a really good thing because it just will make your next financial year so much easier to deal with.
And I think there's a really good point. There's actually doing the work in your accounting package, like in our case, AgriMaster, but it doesn't really matter. It's the same. And then there's the accounting advice. So I like that bit of advice. You say, go to your accountant and go, I need to tighten. They'll look at your file or look at your reports and go, can you please tidy up these areas? But if you don't actually know how to make those changes, call the helpline or there'll be help resources.
Yeah, because you do need to be careful because, like, for example, if you've duplicated an entry and you're on an accruals reporting basis, then you may have either overpaid GST or underpaid GST. And so there'll have to be corrections made on your file. But, it's not something to stress about. It's like I say, speak to the accountant and then in order to fix those entries, give us a call and we can help you out.
And I'm sure people make the same sort of little mistakes every year. Like when we're listening to all the gang and the help center, they're dealing pretty much 99% of the calls are pretty much the same thing. So what are those common things that people miss or get wrong around this time of the year?
Yeah. So let's just go through a whole series of things that I recommend that you need to do. So you've sorted your outstandings, you're working on them. Then you should make sure that all your reconciliations are up to date. If you are not, up to the end of May and reconciled and then getting into June, you need to put aside time and make sure that that's done. You'll also need to make sure that you have run all your final pay periods for the month of June, because off the back of that, then you want to be able to basically run your super. Now, if you would like to claim your superannuation payments within this financial year as a tax deduction, then you need to make sure that you are doing that as well. So, there's some really important things that you definitely need to work through. You also, any expenditure that you want to claim within this financial year, then obviously it needs to be entered within your financial package and also paid. So you've just got to think about all the things that are important to you that you would like to get as part of being able to claim in this financial year. It needs to be done by the 30th of June.
And things like your normal accounts receivable and payable, things like your invoices that haven't either been collected or paid. How do people have to get advice from the accountant how they should deal with them around this time of the year as well?
Yeah, no, definitely. Speak to them first. And that comes back to you could have lots of outstanding transactions within this financial year as well. They should be dealt with as well as, like what I said before, anything that was pre-25, 26, sort those out as well. Yep.
And so people don't get stressed. Is there just a process? Because a lot of people especially people who, I mean, you're, I suppose, a bit of an expert in this system, but there's a lot of people who just do it because someone has to do it within the business. So they're a bit nervous about it. They don't know what to do, and they go, "Oh, it's easy for you, Nat, but not for me." Is there some just simple processes or steps they can follow to make sure that, okay, I'm not super confident, but if I follow these steps, I'll get a good job done?
Yeah. You'll notice that all your accountants are starting to send you now your end of financial year checklist. So definitely pay attention to them. As we've said in previous podcasts, we do lots of checklists here. Pay attention to those as well. But there is lots of guidance that you're being sent by all of your advisors right now. And I really do implore you to sit down and read them and just start chipping through them because, ultimately it'll remove the stress from you. And then when you need to actually tip all the information in, when they're ready to do your tax, it's all ready to go.
Payroll, you mentioned payroll.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big part of a lot of people's business now because payroll since SPT 1, 2, and now we've got payday super coming due, I think starting on July 1. So what do people need to check? So tell me about the particular payroll checks that you need to do at the end of the financial year to make sure, one, you've closed off this financial year cleanly from a payroll point of view, and you're ready to go for the new payday super.
Okay, so there's a couple of things. So as at June 30, you should be running a staff leave entitlement report because your accountant will be wanting that as part of your tax for this financial year. So on the 30th of June, make sure that you've run that report because that's like a snapshot in time of all your staff leave entitlements that they've got owing to them, as well as anyone that's, in the family business that is actually part of payroll as well. So everyone's entitlements will be on there. You would have run your last pay and you've paid the super, maybe not. But basically what you need to do is make sure you've run a payroll report from your payroll package and superannuation, and you need to make sure that they reconcile to your financial package as at the 30th of June, because ultimately that's what's been reported to the government via your S2P. So that is also what will be, your final report for the final reporting of S2P for, 25, 26.
And that's an important point, sorry. A lot of people believe just because their packages may be integrated. So some people have integrated payroll, some people may not have integrated payroll. But just because they're integrated, they still have to make sure both systems agree with each other. Just don't assume naturally they do all the time. So this is what you're saying. Make sure that although your payroll package, whatever that package is, it's the source of truth for your employees and your everything, but your financial package is the source of truth for your tax and your GST and all those sorts of things. So it's important to make sure they do match up perfectly rather than...
Yeah, and I mean, this is going to be the kickstart for payday super. So you're going to do your annual reconciliation and you need to make sure that that's correct. But then, like we said, come the 1st of July, every time you submit a pay going forward, you will need to reconcile those reports every fortnight if it's fortnightly, every week if it's weekly, just to make sure that the two programs do actually reconcile and what's being sent to the ATO is basically correlating with what you've entered into your financial package.
And we've got those checklists online for both
Mm-hmm.
AgriMaster customers and non-AgriMaster customers as well.
Yep, we do.
And we also have, Nat mentioned before, we also have end of the financial year checklists available for, in particular for AgriMaster customers. But if you have, do we have I don't know if we have them for non-AgriMaster
Yes,
customers.
we do. We have them for,
So you've written
they're
one for...
very generic.
So Nat's written one for non-AgriMaster customers as well. So if you're all the customers that are listening, people who are listening to this that aren't an AgriMaster customer, you can get those on our website, even though you're not a customer.
They're also too, like if you haven't decided, like if you've been using the ATO free clearinghouse, please make sure that you do put some time in now, if you haven't already done so, to choose a new super clearinghouse, because remember, as at the 30th of June, that's going to go.
Yeah, so to make a point, this is just the ATO free clearinghouse. So if you've got an existing clearinghouse, you
Correct.
don't have to do anything, right?
Exactly.
Unless it's the ATO one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's a really good point. What about pay runs that might run over a financial year? Or is there anything like that you can get stuck between pay periods or anything like that?
Yes. And so I probably won't go into too much detail about that, but on our help centre, as well as our checklist, we actually have very detailed guides actually how to deal with that. So make sure that you do actually pay attention to if you are one of those people that, does have that happen. And there again, if it seems a little bit too hard, make sure you reach out to the help centre and then they can definitely help you through it. But make sure you contact them sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely.
When we're actually here and working.
Yeah, definitely. And now, Nat, what is... You take this time of the year pretty important because kind of like, David, leave me alone. I've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
End of the financial year. But So, what is your trick? But you don't get stressed about it. It's just, I know you focus this time of the year, and you just go through a process which you've written for everybody. But what is your recommendation for people who get this stress this time of the year? Is it start earlier? Is it have a system? How do you not get stressed this time of the year? And you have a lot to do this time of the year.
I think, well, number one, I've done it for a very long time. So, I have to make sure I'm walking the talk. Um, but if you've done your pre tax planning with your accountant, that should set the scene for all the things that you have to get in order prior to 30th of June. So, my suggestion to people, if you don't do a pre tax planning appointment with your accountant, um, might be too late now. But for next year, that should be something that you should mark in your diary to do. So, end of April, beginning of May, do some pre-tax planning with your accountant, because then you can actually identify together what are all the things that you need to do prior to June 30 so it's not stressful. So it could be the fact that, the outstanding transactions in your file, you talk about it then. And then you can actually have time to go away and work out how you're going to actually rectify them. Um, and I guess it's just about, following a checklist. Just methodically each week, tick something off. So when it comes to June 30, it's not stressful. Because at the end of the day, if you want to claim something as a tax deduction, and say, for example, you're on a cash reporting and you haven't paid it within that financial year, well, then, you know, you probably can't claim it as a tax deduction. So it's a mark in time. Although, there's always the next financial year. If you specifically want to be able to claim something within this financial year, then you have to make sure that you have planned it properly.
And that planning is not a result of whatever accounting package you use. You'll obviously need to have those tax planning conversations with your accountant, but also if you use a farm advisor or a banker, because there's a lot of capital decisions often made this time of the year.
Yep.
The tax decision's not always the best decision, so you have to do them in a business context as well. And I think that's what's really important here. This is an important year, a time of the year for taxation and the government, but it's for a lot of farms, it's just the middle of winter. So it doesn't really matter one way or the other, unless you're living in Europe or the US, which have different financial years, right? But for Australian farmers, this is generally just the middle of winter, and it has very little to do with farm business.
And also too, if you, for example, you are changing your business entity name as at the 1st of July, then that's not staying with the same subscription that you have. For example, if you use AgriMaster, for best practice, you should actually start a whole new file because it's a brand new tax entity, because you don't actually want to alter any details in your current subscription, because then if you rename things or you rename a bank account, for example, then you're actually altering data.
Yeah, altering history.
You're altering history. So the best practice is to actually start a whole new subscription.
And downgrade the other ones.
Yeah, once that's been closed off, that actual financial year, and you no longer need it, which would be after the 1st of July.
So you might need to run them,
yes,
but you might need to run them parallel for a while.
Correct. But that's all the sorts of stuff that we can help you out. Also, probably if you are an accruals accounting customer, you will have lots of tax invoices coming through after the 1st of July. Now, you can still enter that into your 30th of June, so you can claim the GST, for example, but you may need to leave your month open, your June reconciliation month open, just a little bit longer, so you can make sure you get all those transactions in to that month of June as an outstanding entry. But the tax invoices obviously have to be dated the 30th of June or prior in order for it to be, legal.
Yeah. Now, I just wanted to jump back into that point quickly, just on why the need to start a new file/subscription when you change a year. Because as far as the a company, for example, or a new business, in the reality, how the reporting or the legally it's seen as a whole new entity, a whole new person. Even though you're going, we're exactly the same, everything we do is exactly the same, nothing's changed except our business name. To the outside world or the legal world or the accounting world, that's a whole new business. So even though you're saying, I haven't changed, from the outside looking in, you have changed. So it's important to almost in your head, is it treat it like as if you're starting a whole new business.
Yep. And it's just one of those costs that when you actually are changing an entity, you've got legal costs, you've got accounting costs, you'll be getting advice from so many areas in regarding to, you're changing a tax entity structure for a particular reason. So you obviously need to factor in that you may need to start a whole new subscription, or you actually should start a whole new subscription and start running that as at, we're just going to say here, the 1st of July, because that's when the accountant has actually said they want that new tax entity up and running. So there's a lot of work that has to get done prior to that. So there again, if your accountant has spoken to you about that and you haven't gone and seen the bank and opened all those bank accounts and got that ready, might be a good idea to get that happening quick smart, because I guess, the banks, they're like everyone. They've only got a certain amount of capacity. And if you turn up on the 30th of June, say, I've got to start all of these new accounts because like on the 1st of July, my whole world's changing in the business sense, they might go, actually, we have to book this in for another week's time because we're all booked up.
Um, so that's a really good point in regards to getting time to do all this, right? So people often go, okay, we've got advice from the accountant, and then they get legal advice, but they forget a couple of things. One, the bank needs to know all this stuff because it changes everything. Secure. I mean, you'd have to talk to your bank, but there's security, there's a whole lot of stuff here, right? But people often forget about their fund management package or their accounting package, whatever they use, that they forget that they can't just go in there and just change the name, right? Because those packages, that old company it legally still exists. It has to have a history. It has to be auditable, all those sorts of things. So it still has to.
Yeah. But I think that's why when I always harp on about have time in your engine room. Okay. When you know these things are going to change, put time aside to plan out what actually does have to change. And if you sit down, your accountant will really happily go through with you all the different things that need to be changed. And then basically what you need to do is methodically go through it and set down timelines and then just start chipping away. Because yes, it is a lot. And yes, it will be a little bit annoying to sort of run them side by side while you're wrapping one up and starting a new one. But there's obviously a very good reason why this is happening. So and this is like, it's your own business thing that you have to sort out, but it'll be a really good thing once it's done properly.
Yeah. So you wouldn't be doing it unless there was a really good
Correct.
business reason to do it. So do it properly. Yeah.
Yep.
I always hear there's this time of the year across the helpline, we get a lot of people who are having to clean up things that they thought they'd get out of the way quick and dirty during the year.
Yep.
And it comes to this time of the year and it really bites them, right? And they have to do a lot of cleanup. And our consulting team is very busy helping people clean up files that they didn't do anything, where they tried to go for a quick and easy way of getting rid of a problem in the middle of the year, but now it's biting them. Can we go through a few of those?
So what Dave's probably alluding to, if you're one of those customers who false reconcile your cash book, it will actually come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
So if you do that, you should stop that straight away. If you have trouble reconciling for whatever the reason is, just stop. And, if you're an AgriMaster customer, give us a call and let us, help you through what the issue is. And it could be the fact that you are just not quite sure what you're meant to be doing.
Actually, while we're here,
And just ask for assistance.
This is a really common problem. I'll define forced reconciling. So for those people who need to reconcile their accounts once a month, which is what you should be doing, people, against your bank statement, and they can't find, then there's a $2 difference between their bank statement and their cash book. And so or it might even be bigger in a lot of cases, and or they've put the invoice in twice, or there's something that's happened. So they go, can't be bothered finding it, or it's too hard to find it. So they just put in a little entry to go.
Nobody will notice.
Nobody will notice. I'll just put in this dodgy little entry to say whatever, right? It bites you. So, Nat, instead of putting in the dodgy entry that comes in to bite you this time of the year, can we just have a few tips? Because you have to do reconciliation, or probably Ruth does most of the reconciliation now. But what are the tips that you've taught Ruth to find that squirrely little reconciliation error? What's the process you go through for while we're on this? I know it's not end of financial year.
So sometimes numbers can be back to front. Like that's quite a common thing. I'm not saying people are dyslexic, but when you've been looking at it for quite a long time and you actually can't find the error, that's generally what's happened. There's a few digits that are back to front. You may have, like you say, you may have a few entries that you may have imported via a bank feed and they've duplicated. And in error, you've reconciled, all of them. There's just, it could be the closing balance hasn't been quite.
You've typed it in instead of
there again,
$50, you put 50 cents.
Yeah, there's a myriad of things that could have happened. But I guess ultimately, when that happens, you actually should stop, walk away, just go and get a cup of tea. It could even be the next day. Go back with a fresh set of eyes. And then what I always say to people is you just, like in AgriMaster, for example, we do a find and edit just on that particular account. And you put it in date order and you methodically go through one by one to your statement. And yes, this is manual and it will take you a bit of time. But ultimately, you're the one who's actually going to have to find the error. So you just methodically go through, make sure that you've entered the correct closing balance actually before you even start that, and then work out where it's gone wrong. And there again, if you can't even find it then get someone else to have a look with you.
Yeah, and our team has, and whoever you use, they'll have a similar team who, well, you hope they will, is that are really good. They have to deal with this problem for customers all the time, and they're good at helping them. Very good. So, Nat, I just wanted one other thing I want to talk about that comes across this time of the year. People often, put an invoice in their invoicing system, then also pay it, but don't close off the invoice. Can that cause a bit of a problem this time of the year where they've got stuff?
Yeah, duplicated. Yeah.
Duplicating payments or receipts?
Yeah. So basically, just remember, if a receipt comes in and you've raised an invoice, pay the invoice. You don't need to enter it twice.
Yeah.
And if, in AgriMaster, a message will actually pop up and say to you, there's actually an entry like this in enhanced invoicing or basic invoicing. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Don't rush. Just say, just go and have a look.
So the reason we're mentioning all these things, which are really during the year, it's important to remember if it's biting you in the butt a bit this time of the year, remember when you start your next year, these are good hygiene habits which Nat's talked about before in previous episodes of the Engine Room. These hygiene habits in your managing your books on a monthly basis are really important because it's like being kind to your future self because you get to this time of the year and all those things that you go, I'll deal with it later. Later's now.
Yeah.
Right? And so be kind to your future self and do it properly the first time while you're going about it. Nat, to wrap up, is there anything else that people should watch out for this time of the year? And what is one thing you'd like people to take away from the conversation today?
I think basically if you are being harassed about getting out of the office to go and do other stuff, you say, no, I'm actually staying here to make sure that I get into the 1st of July not stressed. So first of all, allow the time to just do your end of financial year responsibilities that you need to do because ultimately then everyone else is going to be happy in the farm.
Thank you, Nat.
Thank you.
And all the best for the end of the financial year, and I hope the rest of the season pans out really well, and we'll talk to you in a fortnight. So
thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to the Engine Room. We hope you found today's episode helpful. For more resources and to continue your learning journey, just head over to the Knowledge tab on agrimaster.com.au. If you're an AgriMaster customer, don't forget that our Help Centre has plenty more tools and resources to support you. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.